making headlines this hour. The SIDS Global Business Network Forum concludes. The Maldives Monetary Authority announces that a sweeping amendment of the nation's banking laws is now underway, aiming to fortify domestic banks and trap a larger share of the foreign exchange earnings generated by the country's tourism sector. And Minister of Islamic Affairs and Endowments, Dr. Muhammad Shahim Ali Saeed, urges newly graduated young khatibs to view their certification not as a final achievement, but as a stepping stone toward continuous learning and lifelong community service.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. Now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz says that the purpose of the bill on illicitly acquired assets is to close avenues for making further profits from assets obtained unlawfully. President said that the government has drafted a bill concerning illicitly acquired assets and submitted it to the Parliament. He said one of the main objectives of introducing the bill is to establish a legal framework for taking assets acquired through serious criminal offences from those responsible and closing avenues through which further profits can be generated from those assets. The President said this would prevent individuals who commit serious crimes from obtaining financial benefits from assets acquired through such offences. He also said the bill would provide a solution to the legal difficulties currently faced in taking interstate ownership assets acquired through serious criminal offences. The absence of an effective system for taking illegally obtained money and assets into state ownership leaves the door open for individuals involved in crimes such as corruption to gain undue benefits from such funds and assets, conceal their origins, dispose of them, and acquire illicit wealth. To address this, the Anti-Corruption Commission ACC has taken the lead in developing an asset recovery model law, which also sets out legal principles for the recovery of money and assets linked to criminal activity by the state. The SIDS Global Business Network Forum concludes.
The forum held at Barcelona Centre in Mali focused on trade, economic development and investment challenges facing small island developing states or SIDS. With more than 200 participants from over 30 countries, including SMEs, investors, business associations, civil society, academics and researchers, the forum discussed challenges to trade and development in SIDS and ways to sustain investment. It aimed to raise global awareness of SIDS challenges and identify ways to support their development through mobilizing financial resources and finding solutions based on SIDS countries' experiences. The forum included 5 panels, an SME marketplace, investment showcases, and networking opportunities. This is the 10th anniversary of the Global Business Network Forum. The forum coincides with the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS, adopted in 2024 as a 10-year development vision. The Maldives' hosting of the forum is an effort to strengthen its role in raising SIDS issues internationally. The government said this year's forum is the result of President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's efforts to strengthen relations among small island states and promote sustainable development, as outlined in the 4th SIDS forum held in 2024.
Palau's Minister of Human Resources, Culture, Tourism and Development, Nyigi Raibilas Tumatuchul, says there are significant opportunities for the private sectors of the Maldives and Palau to work together and stress the need to make full use of these opportunities.
The Palauan minister said the SIDS Global Business Network Forum, which focuses on the business and economic development of small island developing states or SIDS, provided an important opportunity to strengthen ties between small island nations such as the Maldives and Palau. He said such partnerships play a vital and highly beneficial role in developing island economies. He said the forum also provided an important platform for governments, the private sector, and civil society organizations to strengthen their connections. The minister noted that the forum created opportunities to meet different stakeholders and expand business networks, while emphasizing that progress cannot be achieved without private sector participation. He added that opportunities to engage in discussions and consultations with businesses and governments through such forums could pave the way for new investments and strengthen cooperation between governments. Highlighting the potential for successful private sector cooperation between the Maldives and Palau, Minister Tumatuchul pointed to the development project being undertaken in Palau in partnership with Four Seasons Resort as a good example. Four Seasons, which operates in the Maldives, has now begun developing a resort in Palau, which he described as a strong example of work being carried out in partnership with the private sector. He further noted that important work related to the use of artificial intelligence has also been carried out through the SIDS Business Forum. Although such initiatives were not being undertaken at government level, he said important efforts were being made to develop human resources and exchange new ideas. He observed that in many cases, everyone works separately, focusing only on the areas they are developing individually. He said he hoped future forums would bring governments and businesses together to work collaboratively and invite more businesses and governments to participate. He also expressed hope that the connections and cooperations emerging from the forum would contribute to a brighter future. The SIDS Global Business Forum on Business and Economic Development, attended by representatives from more than 30 countries, brought together small and medium-sized enterprises, business associations, investors, civil society organizations, as well as academic and research institutions. The forum, attended by more than 200 participants, featured 5 panel discussions, a marketplace for small and medium-sized enterprises, investment showcases, and networking opportunities.
The Maldives Monetary Authority MMA announces that a sweeping amendment of the nation's banking laws is now underway, aiming to fortify domestic banks and trap a larger share of the foreign exchange earnings generated by the country's tourism sector.
Speaking at a press conference in the president's office, MMA Governor Ahmad Munawar said the reforms are essential to retain far more than the country does of the roughly $5 billion in annual tourism revenue that currently bypasses the local financial system. Governor Munawar highlighted that following post-COVID adjustments to foreign exchange rules, the proportion of US dollar receipts processed through Maldivian banks rose from just 10% to 21%, but he noted that a significant portion of that $5 billion remains parked offshore. He pointed to the recent amendment of the Payment System Act and the pending bill related to the destination principle, currently before Parliament, as key components of a structural step-by-step effort to build a comprehensive framework. The governor warned that local banks are presently barred from extending loans for resort development, a limitation that undercuts the sector's growth. The MMA's reform agenda seeks to expand domestic banking capacity, boost liquidity, and encourage the settlement of local transactions in the Maldivian rupiah, thereby reducing reliance on offshore channels and strengthening the overall resilience of the nation's financial sector.
Minister of Islamic Affairs and Endowments, Dr. Muhammad Shahim Ali Saeed, urges newly graduated young khatibs to view their certification not as a final achievement, but as a stepping stone toward continuous learning and lifelong community service.
Speaking at the official certificate awarding ceremony for the 5th batch of the Young Khatibs training program, Minister Shahim emphasized that the ability to deliver sermons is a noble skill that enhances a person's character and carries a responsibility that lasts a lifetime. The minister encouraged the young graduates to extend their presence beyond just Friday prayers by regularly leading congressional prayers and setting a positive example for Maldivian youth. Addressing the core objective of the initiative, Minister Shaheen highlighted a pressing national need. The historical generation of imams who served the country for decades is gradually retiring, leaving some islands reliant on traveling khatibs to conduct Friday prayers. The Young Khatibs training program was specifically designed to bridge this gap, having successfully produced over 700 young religious leaders to date. Minister Shaheen reassured the public regarding the capability of these young graduates, pointing to the strength of the national Islamic curriculum. He explained that students completing Imam certificates levels 1, 2, and 3 alongside secondary school studies in Hadith, Quranic studies, history, and civilization are fully qualified to carry out Imam duties. The fifth batch of the initiative saw 91 young participants complete their training, targeted at students in grades 10, 11, and 12, as well as school leavers under the age of 18. The program has surged in popularity across the country, breathing renewed energy and youth involvement into religious outreach across the archipelago.
The Ministry of Fisheries, Agriculture and Ocean Resources says it has supplied pesticides to 38 islands so far to control coconut hispine beetles and spiraling whiteflies.
The coconut hispine beetle was first detected in the Maldives in December 1999 at Sun Island Resort in Ari Atoll. The pest damages young coconut leaves and hinders the growth of coconut palms. To address the problem, authorities conducted research with assistance from the government of China and identified an organism capable of controlling the coconut hispine beetle. Authorities have also begun work at the Hanimadu Agriculture Center to establish the palm pest biological control parasitoid rearing center to breed the organism. Alongside these biological control efforts, the ministry has written to island councils asking them to inform the ministry if they require pesticides to address coconut hispine beetle and spiraling whitefly infestations. So far, 62 islands have requested pesticides, while 38 islands have collected the supplies. The ministry said islands in Ha Alifu, Ha Dal, and Shavini atolls that require pesticides can obtain them from the Hanimadu Agricultural Center. The ministry will provide pesticides to islands in the remaining atolls as coconut hispine beetle and spiraling whitefly infestations increase across different parts of the Maldives. Authorities have expressed concern over the issue. Under the President's guidance, they are giving the work special priority to accelerate efforts to control the pest. As part of these efforts, authorities recently opened a palm pest biological control parasitoid rearing center to breed parasitoids that naturally attack such pests. The project aims to identify diseases and harmful pests affecting coconut palms in the Maldives and establish a sustainable system to control them. The approach involves breeding biological control agents that attack the pest and releasing them in affected areas, allowing authorities to control infestations through environmentally friendly methods. The specialized center will have the capacity to breed more than 100,000 parasitoids a day.
The Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development announces that financing has so far been disbursed to 244 people under the Hiyavehi financing program for housing construction.
Speaking on PSM News' Rajya Miyadu program, State Minister at the Housing Ministry, Ahmad Nazim Mohammed, said 891 people have been selected in the first phase of the Hiyavehi scheme to receive financial assistance. Of these, financing loans have already been disbursed to 244 people, while the ministry is completing the final stages required to release funds to the remaining 629 eligible applicants. Nazim said the main reason for delays was the lengthy procedures required to complete the financing process. Financing is provided under three categories. Applicants under the Fahimad scheme can receive between $389,104 and $648,508, while those under the Saharu scheme can receive $194,553, and applicants under the Ravvehi scheme can receive $64,851. The government has allocated $129.70 million annually for the Hiyavehi program. Of this, $64.85 million will be provided by the government, while the remaining funding will be provided by banks. According to the ministry, the program is a Sharia-compliant financing scheme offered at a 5% profit rate, with recipients given a repayment period of up to 25 years.
The Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development begins notifying applicants for flats and land plots of discrepancies in their information through the Bohia Wahikang portal.
The ministry has urged applicants to check the portal regularly. All stages related to submitting applications for flats and land plots have now concluded, and the ministry is verifying information concerning applicants' property and land ownership. The government received 58,585 applications under the housing program. Speaking on PSM News' Rajya Medu program, State Minister at the Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development Ahmad Nazim Mohammed said authorities have collected property registration information from all island councils, city councils, and other relevant institutions across the Maldives. The ministry has begun notifying applicants where discrepancies arise and giving them an opportunity to respond. State Minister Nazim said a fully automated platform handles the verification process. When the system flags information as inaccurate, it notifies the applicant through the Bohia Wahikam portal and gives them 7 days to respond. He explained that some relevant authorities may hold information that has not been properly maintained or updated. The 7-day period therefore gives applicants an opportunity to clarify and correct such information. If an applicant does not respond within the 7-day period, the opportunity to correct the information will close. State Minister Nazim said the property ownership verification process operates entirely through the automated system, which obtains information from the relevant authorities, checks it, and flags any discrepancies. State Minister Nazim noted that councils may hold outdated information, while properties may also be subject to legal proceedings or inheritance-related matters that have not been properly registered. As applicants would be best placed to explain the actual circumstances, the ministry gives them an opportunity to provide evidence and establish the correct information. Alongside property ownership information, the ministry has begun verifying applicants' education, employment, and registry details. State Minister Nazim said the ministry is obtaining this information from the respective authorities. As the verification process continues, State Minister Nazim urged applicants to check the portal regularly and respond within the stipulated 7-day period. He said the automated system does not issue discrepancy notifications in any predetermined order. If applicants face difficulty providing information relating to a discrepancy within 7 days, State Minister Nazim urged them to notify the ministry through the portal within that period and initiate the necessary process. Applicants must complete all procedures related to such cases through the portal. The government is working to complete the verification process and publish the list of recipients of flats and land plots by December.
Mohammad Shakil, the President of Elections Commission of the Maldives, states in a message shared for National Voters' Day that every vote is a testimony cast on the integrity and competence of the person to whom that vote is given. Observing that Maldivians constitute a 100% Muslim nation guided by the Islamic principles, Shakil described the ballot as a sacred trust, advising citizens to maintain honesty, sincerity, and fear of Almighty Allah when exercising their franchise. The president of the electoral body underscored ballots cast for national leadership, the parliament, the local councils determine choices that directly or indirectly shape national development, legal equality, and institutional stability. The Maldives observes National Voters' Day annually on 25th August, marked this year under the slogan "Voting is a right and a responsibility." Online fast fashion retailer Shein's valuation drops by around 70% from a near $100 billion private market peak 4 years ago, as it aims to raise up to $1.77 billion in its Hong Kong IPO.
Shein is selling 280 million shares between 47.60 Hong Kong dollars and 49.50 Hong Kong dollars per share, the filing showed, valuing it as close to 27 billion US dollars at the top of that range. The valuation has dropped sharply from earlier private fundraising rounds that valued Shein at 98.2 billion US dollars in 2022. The company was valued at 64 billion US dollars in 2023 and April 2024. The company will announce the final price on August 31st and start trading on September the 1st. Known for selling $5 dresses and $10 jeans to shoppers in about 160 countries, Shein had first sought an IPO valuation of 30 billion US dollars to 40 billion US dollars when investor meetings ahead of the IPO kicked off. The market decline in valuation comes after Shein faced questions over slowing growth, rising cost, and changing market conditions. Investors had said they were not convinced Shein could return to the growth rates that valued it at nearly 100 billion US dollars 4 years ago.
The United States calls on Russia and Ukraine to return to negotiations as UN officials warned that drone warfare was inflicting mounting civilian casualties and transforming daily life near the front line.
Dan Negria, U.S. representative to the UN Economic and Social Council, said Washington was prepared to help facilitate talks between Moscow and Kyiv.
The United States remains committed to Ukraine's future as a sovereign and prosperous nation. We join President Trump in continuing to call for an immediate ceasefire and good faith negotiations to end the Russia-Ukraine war and return peace and stability to both countries. Death continued to mount, strike after strike. We call on both sides to end any strikes that target or risk damaging civilian vessels.
UN Aid Chief Tom Fletcher, who visited Ukraine last week, described parts of Kherson as a dystopian landscape of kill zones and kamikaze drones. He said first-person view drone attacks had increased 60% this year, often striking civilians, while hospitals were treating large number of blast injuries. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen said the war could end if Russia accepted the unconditional ceasefire offered by Ukraine. Russian UN Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia rejected any ceasefire that would allow Kyiv to regroup and rearm, saying there could be no agreement at the expense of Russian security interests. It also said its forces were targeting Ukrainian military infrastructure and facilities used to receive Western weapons. Ukraine's UN Ambassador Andriy Melnik said Patriot interceptors capable of saving hundreds of lives were sitting in stockpiles while civilians remained exposed to Russian ballistic missile attacks. He urged partners to immediately provide all available interceptors and announced a global coalition aimed at increasing production of anti-ballistic interceptors tenfold or more.
UEFA President Alexander Ceferin rules himself out of running for the FIFA presidency, but said Gianni Infantino would likely face a challenger if he seeks re-election next year, following a global backlash over a plan to sell a part of the World Cup to private investors.
Speaking to the Rest is Politics leading podcast, Ceferin said he was not interested in succeeding Infantino, despite growing uncertainty around the FIFA president's future after his abandoned investment proposal. The UEFA chief, who said he had no contact with Infantino since controversy erupted over the abandoned sell-off plan, suggested the Swiss administrator would likely face opposition if he stands again in March.
Tell me what you think he will be trying to do to survive, because he's clearly not going to walk, is he?
Yeah, things are changing every day. Every day there are different discussions. I didn't speak with him. He didn't contact me since this happened. But there are two options. One option is that he realizes that he doesn't have the support.
Ceferin also criticized the proposed World Cup investment project, describing it as a greater threat to the sport than the European Super League plan that UEFA successfully fought in 2021. Reuters had contacted FIFA for comment on Schäferin's criticism of Infantino and the sport's global governing body. Schäferin said UEFA's 55 member federations reacted with anger after details of the proposal emerged publicly and rejected suggestions that oppositions came only from Europe's wealthiest associations. Schäferin rejected claims that Europe was obstructing efforts to help poorer football nations and took aim at what he described as attempts to portray UEFA as an entitled elite. Schäferin said neither he nor UEFA had been informed about either the investment proposal or a separate FIFA Peace Prize awarded in 2025 to US President Donald Trump before they became public.
Japan's sweltering summer heat isn't just brutal for humans, it can be deadly for dogs and cats, and a clothing maker has come up with a novel solution, a fan suit.
Inspired by air-conditioned vests worn by Japanese construction workers, a Tokyo-based maternity wear manufacturer has created a puffy, cooling jacket to help pet owners protect their furry friends from heat stroke. Inside the suit, the two battery-powered fans pulled in a steady flow of air, which is then chilled by an ice pack in the collar before circulating through the body and venting at the neck and legs for full body cooling. This summer, many cities in Japan have observed temperatures soaring past 40 degrees Celsius, a level the government described as a brutally hot day, known locally as Kokushobi. Hikaru Uzawa, director of Sweet Mommy, the company behind the breathable outfit, said the design was developed in close collaboration with veterinarians. The latest version, where pet owners can insert an ice pack for air-conditioned effect, comes in 4 sizes, priced at 16,500 yen or $104 each. The pet outfit has become a major hit since the launch of its first series in 2022, selling nearly 10,000 units.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.